Alrighty. Hello, everybody. I'm back here again with another review for the trilogy. This one will be on Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2 is, just like the first game, a looter-shooter game. This game features new characters, new guns, and, most importantly, new abilities. So, let's get into what all is new, per se. In this game, we have a lot of new character stuff to go through. So, since we have new characters, we have new skill trees to go over. Just like in my first review, I will be giving a brief description on all of the characters, but going in depth on one, just to show you how this game tends to put its skills together compared to the first, or if you are planning on watching the pre-sequel, then how it compares to this one. So, let's go over the characters now. We have Axton. Axton is the new commando. Axton's ability is very similar to Roland from the first game, in the sense of he will throw down a sentry or a turret. His skills tend to kind of buff up this turret and give it new abilities to use, whether that be rockets or stronger bullets or more accurate fire rate and stuff like that. In this game, one thing to note that is different from the first game, though, is no character seems to be strictly tied or more pulled towards a specific type of weapon. In the first game, each character kind of had their own respective weapons, to where it felt like if you weren't using the weapons that the game set out for you, you were achieving a lot less than what you feel you could have been if you were using the stuff meant for that character. So, in this game, while yes, some abilities will buff certain weapons, whether it be snipers or submachine guns, no character is strictly tied to a weapon like they were in the first game. With this, you can use whatever you want, which is a great feeling. While every character in the first game could equip every weapon, at the same time, they could not really get full use out of it like maybe one of the other characters could. So, without further ado now, let's continue on with the other characters. After Axton, we have Zero. Zero is the new huntsman, just like Mordecai. He is an assassin. He has skills that pertain around melee and snipers, which is quite an interesting combo, because either you are up right next to the enemy, or you are so far away to where they don't even see you. So, with him, his special ability is he will throw out a decoy that looks exactly like him, a hologram, and he will then turn invisible, giving him time to reposition or get into melee range or anything of the sort, line up a shot maybe. This can be used a multitude of different ways. This is it's funny. If you think about it, he has snipers just like Mordecai does, but he also is very good at melee, just like how Brick was. But at the same time, his ability makes him go invisible and draw attention away from him, just like Lilith did. So, he is a pretty interesting mashup of abilities. But, without further ado, next character. The next character out of the 4 starting ones is Maya. That's her name. She is the new Siren. So, she, unlike Lilith, She is still a caster, but she is more of your crowd control type of caster. Her special ability is, instead of being called phase walk, it's called phase lock. What it does is target enemy will be picked up off the ground and be trapped in a bubble, basically. Stuck there until the time wears off or they are killed. This is very useful if there is a strong enemy running at you and you need some breathing room. This can, just like all the other characters, be affected by skills and traits, but it is a very useful ability and is pretty decent when it comes to recharge speed, even though Zero's, I believe, has the fastest recharge speed in the game. So, the last character of the starting four, and my most used out of all of them. I have used all of them thoroughly, but this is my most used over all of them. This is Salvador. He is a gunzerker. Just like how Brick was berserker in the first game. This is that, but a lot more gun heavy instead of punchy. So, as you can see, the skill trees got an overhaul, look a lot more interesting, and seem to have quite a few more skills to spec into. So, we'll get into all the trees and I'll go over this build. After, let's look at his special ability. His special ability, Gunzerking. Press F to draw a second gun and go nuts. While Gunzerking, you instantly gain 50% of your max health as a burst heal, gain damage reduction against enemy attacks, and consistently regenerate health and ammo. Does not regenerate rockets. It has a cooldown of 42 seconds, but we'll get more on that later on. So, this ability is my favorite. I'd have to say it. Like, this ability is insane with what you can do. So, let's go over one of the cheesiest things in this game. Here, I have 2 rocket launchers. Then, I just have 2 pistols. So, let's show why this is stupid. So, let's go to this rocket launcher. If this isn't busted in someone's eyes, I don't know what is. If you look at some guy who's dual-wielding rocket launchers and says, nah, that's fine, that's not scary at all, then I have no clue what in your mind, what is scary. Probably flaming clown spiders. Reason why I'm saying that is because everyone's scared of flaming clown spiders. You just don't know it because you haven't seen one yet. Bet you right now that if just a flaming clown spider showed up, you'd be terrified. And on fire, which would also be terrifying. See? It works. Anyway, Gunzerking. Very fun, very useful. Let's get into his skill trees. We'll go from left... Actually, no. We'll go right to left this time, considering I don't put a lot in the right skill tree for this build. So, I will go over all of them, even the ones that I do not use. So, first, hard to kill. Increase your maximum health and gives you a small amount of health regeneration. Good for survivability. A good ability, but I already have a lot of HP, and if I'm going to die at the level that I am at, I was going to die with this increase to health anyway. Insight. Taking damage from enemies increases my movement speed and reload speed for a few seconds. Movement speed at 60% and reload speed at 50%. This is very useful because this helps me reposition or run away. I can easily get where I want to be or away from where I don't want to be. And I get all of this just for being shot at by enemies. It doesn't matter how much damage I took, I could get sneezed at and get the speed buff. Or I could get taken down to 1 HP and get the speed buff. But nonetheless, it is very good for movement and a very useful ability. Next, Asbestos. Reduces the duration of enemy elemental status effects on me. Enemy status effect duration, 40%. So, I use this because status effects are very strong. Some of them make you take increased damage, some of them affect your shields and make them deplete really fast, and some of them, if your shields aren't there and you're lit on fire, well, your health bar is basically gone. Fire cuts through health like it is nothing. So, the less time that I have on being on fire or shocked or anything like that, the better. Because taking less damage is nice. Next, I'm the Juggernaut. Kill skill. Killing an enemy reduces all damage taken for a few seconds. This is good. This is a very strong survivability skill. But just like before, I said if I'm going to die at the level that I'm at now, I would have died anyway. So while it is good, I do not spec into it for this build in particular. Next, Ain't Got Time to Bleed. While gunzerking, you regenerate health. The lower your current health, the more powerful the regeneration. You already regenerate health as soon as you're gunzerking, so this is just another stacking regeneration buff on you. So you just keep healing while you're shooting things. This keeps you in the battle and right where you want to be, killing things. Next, Fistful of Hurt. It's a melee override skill. These are new. Melee override skills are if you do your melee attack and it is off cooldown, then you will do a special melee attack. Maybe with added damage or special effects, and then it will go on cooldown. And after the cooldown is up, you can do it again. While it is on cooldown, you will do your normal melee. So it's just a little added effect. I use this because while it says it does massive damage, I guess you can say it does that. But at the level I'm at, it really isn't useful for me to be meleeing at all whatsoever, because that is not what I built for. But there is a lot of knockback on this. I use this strictly to get something away from me. If I'm on low health or I am in danger and something's right next to me, I will punch it just to punt it across the room. Next, Out of Bubblegum. Increase fire rate with all gun types while your shields are depleted. Nothing wrong with more fire rate, and even though your shields are depleted, this is kind of a way to take advantage of the situation, but at the same time, you have a lot of health and health regeneration. So there is a very high chance that you just never have your shield up and you're just living off your HP and that is all. So for this build, I spec into it just because I like the added fire rate. Next, Bust That Can't Slow Down. Increases your movement speed while gunzerking. This is, again, very useful for movement speed. While it is another movement speed buff and I find mobility very nice, I already have enough movement speed from Insight. While I would like to have it, it is definitely not necessary and I already move fast enough. Next, Just Got Real. Increase gun damage for all gun types the lower your health, the greater the damage bonus. This is a good ability, but in my opinion, I do not like planning for death. I do not like having low health, and I would much prefer being at max health. If I am not at max health at this point in the game, then I feel like I am just dead. Either I am sitting at max health, or I am very close to it. If I am not, I am probably going to die. Next. One of the best skill names in the game. Sexual Tyrannosaurus. Taking damage causes you to regenerate health for 5 seconds. This effect does not stack. This is another health regeneration buff that you can stack on top of the others that you already have. One from just initial Gunzerking, and one from Ain't Got Time to Bleed. So you can see you're stacking a lot of health regen. These are very fun. But I already have said it enough. Just, I'm already survivable enough. Didn't really need it. And finally, the keystone of the Brawn Tree. Come at me, bro. Action Skill Augment. While Gunzerking, press F to taunt your enemies and instantly gain full health. Taunted enemies are more likely to attack you, and for the next few seconds you gain massive damage reduction. So, this is a very good ability, especially if your other teammates are dying too often. If your other teammates are very squishy, or don't have a lot of health, or shields, or any way to stay alive, this is good if you can maintain staying alive while having everyone shoot at you. It is nice to be able to gain full health at the click of a button, and also it gets added bonus points by being able to just give the enemies the finger. It is very, very high up on like the bonus point scale of just being able to walk into a group of enemies and just flip them the bird. So that is all of the Brawn Tree, based mostly around survivability and that of the sort. So let's get on to the middle tree. The middle tree is called Rampage. The first skill, Inconceivable. Your shots have a chance to not consume ammo. The lower your health and shields, the greater the chance of free shots. Chance of free shots up to 50%. This ability is great as, just like in the first game, the Phoenix ability for Lilith, whenever you shoot a shot and this ability procs and doesn't consume ammo, it does not take the ammo out of your magazine, which means you can shoot it again. If this happens over and over and over again, you can, in theory, shoot forever. While it is unlikely to shoot forever, you do have the chance to be able to. Next, Filled to the Brim. Increase your magazine size with all weapon types, also increases your ammo carrying capacity with all ammo types. This is, in my opinion, not very good, but nothing says that you can't grab it. I already have enough ammo, and I regenerate ammo while Gunzerking. I built this around mostly just Gunzerking, so I really do not have a problem with ammo. So, I do not pick this up in this build. All in the Reflexes. Increases reload speed and melee damage. I picked this up just for the reload speed. Plus 40% melee damage is nice, but reload speed of plus 50% on top of my other reload speed bonuses make sure that I am shooting all the time. If I'm not shooting, then I'm probably dead. Next, Last Longer. Increases the duration of Gunzerking. Gunzerking duration plus 30 seconds. Yes, there is no reason not to take this. Be Gunzerking longer, shoot more bullets, be that guy, kill everything. In my opinion, this is one of the most useful abilities because keeping Gunzerking up at all times just is a massive damage buff just because shooting multiple guns at once. Next, I'm Ready Already. Increases the cooldown rate of your Gunzerking ability. This is a pretty good ability because having increased cooldown rate just lets you get back into that shooty mode a lot faster for whenever it ends. Although, I do not take it in this build because there are other abilities that I feel do its job better. Because Gunzerking will only start its cooldown whenever it ends. So, we'll get more into that later. Next, Steady As She Goes. Reduces recoil with both guns while Gunzerking. Additionally, each shot that hits an enemy has a chance to improve your accuracy with both guns. This is very good because while you are wielding two guns, this means you have to compensate for the recoil of both and the spread of both. The more accuracy you have, the better. I do not have a lot of problems with accuracy because most of the guns I use either have very easy bullets to land or just aren't very inaccurate in the first place. So I don't really need this for what I'm going for. It's a very good ability, though. 5 shots or 6. Kill skill. Killing an enemy causes every shot fired to have a chance to add ammunition into the magazine instead of expending ammunition. This is a very good ability. This lets you keep going and doing more damage, and it is very useful. And why not gain more ammo and have a chance to not consume ammo? It is a very good combination, but just like with I'm Ready Already, I will say that a different ability kind of overshadows this one. So we will get more into that later, but it's still a good ability in my opinion. Next, Yippee-Ki-Yay. Killing an enemy while gunzerking increases the amount of time you can gunzerk. Gunzerking duration plus 5.4 seconds per kill. This ability is insane. This is one of the reasons why I'm Ready Already is a lot less useful than it could be. Because why recharge your gunzerking ability if you never have to get out of gunzerking? If you have enemies to kill, then you will stay in gunzerking forever. There is not diminishing returns, and you will keep going and going and going. Next, double your fun. Throwing a grenade while gunzerking causes you to throw 2 grenades. The second grenade does not cost ammo. This is very useful considering there are different types of grenades in this game that are very useful for a multitude of different reasons. Whether your grenades heal you or just do a lot of damage, it gets you more bang for your buck, and in my opinion, you should always take this. Since it's a 1-point wonder, you really aren't wasting anything to pick it up. Next, Get Some. Shooting an enemy decreases your gunzerking cooldown. This effect can only occur once every 3 seconds. This is the other main reason this and Yippee-Ki-Yay are why I'm Ready Already is useless. If you plan on going down the Rampage tree, if you plan on getting these 2 abilities, do not get I'm Ready Already. The reason being is, like I said before, I'm Ready Already increases the cooldown rate of your gunzerking ability, but it can only start cooling down once your gunzerking ended in the first place. Next, Get Some. What this does is while you're gunzerking, it reduces the cooldown of your gunzerking ability every time that you damage an enemy while you're gunzerking. With Yippee-Ki-Yay, you tend to stay in gunzerking for a long time. If you ever run out of gunzerking, if you're also running Get Some, there is a very, very, very high chance that whenever you run out of gunzerking, it is immediately off of cooldown. Because this happens while you're in the middle of gunzerking. While with I'm Ready Already, you have to wait for it to be over to start getting its effect. With Get Some, it can already be off cooldown while you still have your entire duration of gunzerking left. These 2 abilities are a very great combination, and I feel are a staple in any main gunzerking focused build. Next, keep firing. While gunzerking, the longer you hold down the trigger, the faster your guns fire and the faster you reload. This is an insanely high damage increase. This helps you get your weapons topped off with ammo if they reload slow, or if they reload fast, it feels like you never stopped shooting in the first place. And with an 88% increase to fire rate, you fire so fast that it's just not even right. This is a very useful ability, and I highly recommend trying it out. Finally, the last tree, Gunlust. First skill, Locked and Loaded. Reloading your gun increases fire rate for a short time. Why not? If you're shooting, you're gonna end up reloading. With this, it's another fire rate increase on top of all the other fire rate increases you have. Like I said, my character will be shooting 24/7. If there are not bullets flying somewhere, then there is probably either a connection error on my part, or I am already dead. Next, Quick Draw. Increases weapon swap speed and critical hit damage with all gun types. This is a useful ability, but I feel your weapon swap speed is already fast enough, and the critical hit damage is not a high enough percent to warrant getting it. So while it is useful, I find that it is not very needed. Next, I'm your Huckleberry. Increase gun damage and reload speed with pistols. Hey, look at that, more reload speed. But this is an ability entirely based around pistols. Like I said, no character is really set in stone with any particular weapon, but some characters may still have an ability that just strictly enhances one weapon type. This is one of those abilities to where it's just mainly bent towards pistols. Very useful, very good. I use it because I use pistols. Next, all I need is one. Swapping weapons causes your next shot fired to deal additional damage. It's good, but I feel like the best way to get use out of this is if you're swapping weapons constantly. And in my opinion, there's no reason to swap weapons a lot whenever you can just keep firing. There are so many reload speed things in his skill trees that his reload time is nothing. So whenever you run out of ammo, in most games, you would swap to a different weapon to then expend that ammo. With this, there basically is no reload time, so I don't really find a lot of swapping weapon scenarios that make this useful. Also because it doesn't give you a lot of bonus gun damage, and it only affects the next shot. So you'd have to swap weapons, shoot, swap weapons, shoot, swap weapons, shoot. It's just not very useful, and in my opinion, if you want to go for a slow, hard-hitting playstyle, that you should not play this character. This is more so about being in the thick of combat, and if you're swapping weapons, you aren't shooting, which is what this guy is all about. Next, Divergent Likeness. When gun-zerking, my bad, with two guns of the same type, you deal bonus damage. When gun-zerking with two different types of guns, you gain bonus accuracy. This is good. Generally because I use pistols side by side, so I get damage. The accuracy bonus is okay, but it's just another thing to have. It's like a cherry on top of the cake whenever playing this character, to where it's just more damage, and 30% is worth it. And 30% accuracy never hurt. Next, Autoloader. Killing an enemy instantly reloads all of the guns you have equipped that are not currently in your hands. Swapping guns after Autoloader has reloaded a gun triggers locked and loaded. So, this is good, but again, I don't like the swapping weapons constantly playstyle. I feel like swapping weapon playstyles are a lot more useful on characters that can only wield one weapon at a time, but since you can wield two weapons, you generally have a lot of the bases that you should be worried about covered just off of the combo you're already using. So while it is okay and it sounds good to instantly reload, with all of the other reload buffs that you have for Salvador, this instant reload is basically the same thing of which he does normally. So I do not recommend using this. Next, we have possibly one of the strongest abilities on Salvador in the game. Money Shot. The last round fired from your magazine deals massively increased damage. Guns with small magazines receive a smaller bonus. This skill works with all weapon types. So, this ability is stupid. The main reason is because of synergy. A synergy between this ability and another make this ability completely broken. So let's go over this. The last shot in your magazine for a weapon will deal 400% bonus damage at max rank. That's a lot. Now, on top of that, the minimum magazine size for a full bonus is only 10. So you really don't need a lot of ammo to take full effect of this bonus damage. This bonus damage is insane. Now, just for the sake of letting everyone know why this is possibly one of the most broken abilities on Salvador, and not even just Salvador, but in the entire game, is let's go over it piece by piece. The last round fired from your magazine deals massively increased damage. This means that whenever you have one shot left in your mag, you will deal 400% damage. The problem with this is, whenever Inconceivable procs, it doesn't consume ammo, and the ammo that it procced for will still be in your magazine. And like I said before, this can proc multiple times in a row. What this means is, if you are lucky, whenever you are shooting your gun, you can get down to the last bullet and have Inconceivable proc over and over and over again, in theory, indefinitely, and constantly do this plus 400% damage just endlessly. While it is not very common or likely to do it indefinitely, there have been times where I have walked up to some of the hardest bosses in the game, and because of a combo and because of these two abilities just deciding to work together on that day, that it just killed the boss in a matter of seconds. Whenever it was a 4-player recommended boss and I was doing it alone. So these two are very strong, and this ability can get out of hand very quickly. Next, Lay Waste. Kill skill. Killing an enemy increases fire rate and critical hit damage with all guns for a short while. This is a very, very good ability. I honestly really like it, but I don't tend to use it because I don't feel I need the damage. The fire rate is insane, the critical hit damage is insane, and it is very good. I do recommend using this, but for this build, I do not use it. Next, Down Not Out. You can Gunzerk while in Fight for Your Life. What Fight for Your Life is, whenever you finally run out of shields and run out of health and they finally kill you, you're not done yet. You go into a down state, and if you're playing with any friends, they have a chance to revive you. So you have a chance of getting back up into the battle. But another thing is, whenever you are down, if you kill an enemy while you are down, you can get a rally. You will then, if you kill an enemy while in Fight for Your Life, you will stand back up with, I believe, 30% health or something like that. But the big point here is, now, instead of only having one gun to try to stand back up with while you're in Fight for Your Life, you can just use two. What this also is useful for is, whenever you don't have this ability, if you are Gunzerking and you go down, your Gunzerking will end immediately. If you have this ability and you die while you are Gunzerking, you will continue to Gunzerk while you are down, and if you get rallied, you will then continue to Gunzerk. Another thing is, if you weren't gunzerking in the first place, you can now activate it while in fight for your life. So this just helps you maintain that damage and make sure that you don't lose your gunzerking, even from you finally reaching that inevitable fate of death. Next, keep it piping hot. While gunzerking is in the process of cooling down, you gain bonus gun damage, melee damage, and grenade damage. It is very useful. It's a lot of bonus damage, and it is very useful for early game. If you plan on copying my build, you generally won't get this damage bonus too often, but there are times where it is very useful. Finally, the last ability of all, and the keystone for the Gunlush tree, no kill like overkill. Killing an enemy grants bonus damage to your next shot equal to the amount of excess damage you dealt to the enemy you just killed. This has done insane amounts of damage for me. Like, there would be a very low health enemy that would walk up to me, and I would deal multiple millions amount of damage overkill to it because it didn't have a lot of health. But then a very high health enemy would walk up next, and because I had all that overkill damage stored, you just immediately kill the next one. It is something to just really help you continue that damage chain and just keep killing things, to keep your gunzerking going and keep you angry. And finally, that is it for the Gunzerker. That is all three trees, and you can see how his abilities can synergize with one another. Now for some final wrap-up notes. This game, just like the first one, has blood and gore. I'm saying this to warn people, and another thing to note is, if you do not like blood and gore, it is able to be turned off, but it will be turned off for enemies that you are fighting, and probably not all scenes that you may watch throughout the story or through any cutscenes or anything like that. Another thing to note, if you aren't a big fan of blood and gore, this game isn't too bad with it, to be honest. It is pretty cartoony, so it may not quite gross you out just like normal stuff would. This is one of the games where it's kind of passable, but even if you don't like it, you can turn it off. But I do recommend giving this game a shot. It is very good, and the blood and gore isn't too unmanageable, like some horror games or anything like that. Next, DLC. There is so much DLC for this game that, in my opinion, there's customization DLCs where it's just skins for your character just to make them look cool. You can get them if you want. They are not necessary. I do not recommend buying everything unless it is on a heavy sale. But when it comes to DLC for maps, every single one of the maps is like its entire own new story. They are filled with content and are all very good, and I recommend highly picking up all of the campaign DLCs. They all have their own unique stories, fun interactions, and a lot of humor. They are very good. And finally, to wrap it all up, while in this game there was the starting 4 characters, just like the first game, there are 2 DLC characters. One of them is Gage, a Mechromancer, who summons a flying robot to fight things with her. She is very good. This is her ability, and she is a very, very fun character. And finally, the last DLC character, Krieg, the Psycho. You get to play one of the psychos from the Borderlands, who was a science experiment, basically, who has broken out and is now out for revenge and loot, and maybe some other special reasons that you will find out. But His special ability lets you pull out a buzzsaw. It is basically a saw blade on a stick to then go around and melee the crap out of people with. You can also throw it. Throwing it does not mean you have to go pick it up. You'll just pull a new one out of your pocket. But it is a very fun character and is very strong and enjoyable if you like focused melee builds. Melee is very strong with Krieg, and he is a very enjoyable and loved character throughout the community. Other than that, that is about it. That mostly wraps up Borderlands 2, considering I'm not a fan of spoilers, and I am trying not to spoil anything for you, which is why I'm in just this one boring room. So, that is it. I do hope you all enjoyed, and that you leave a like and a comment. And I will be back with a Borderlands the pre-sequel review after this. So, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Enjoy, everybody, and take care.